So this was a special request from one of my YouTube subscribers. They wanted to know how to make the canning jar block. And so today we're going to make the large version and the small, but our blocks are candy theme for the holidays, and I'm making a table runner, but you can make it any size that you want. You just make as many blocks. I am not adding sashing because I have a shelf that they're kind of sitting on. If you don't have the shelf, then you can add sashing. You could also add the sashing and just extend your shelf along the bottom here. Hello and welcome. I am Jackie with Jackie Russell Creates, where we talk about everything quilting. I give tips, tricks, and techniques for your next quilting project. In the meantime, maybe you should hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know the next time that I upload a video. And let's get started on making these cute blocks. So for these two blocks, they're very simple, minimal fabric that you need for each thing. The first that you're going to need is the jar body. And for the large one, it's 5.5 by 8 inches. I will put the measurements down in the description for you. For the lid, you're going to need a 2-inch by 3.5 rectangle. For the shelf, if you're opting to do that, you're going to need a 1.5 by 6.5 inches. You're also going to need 4 1.5-inch squares. For the lid unit, we're going to need 2-inch squares. To go down the side of the jar, you're going to need a 1-inch by 8-inch. And to do the top and the bottoms, you're going to need a 1.5 by 6.5 inch. Now that's for the large. The small is going to be a little different measurements, and we'll go over those in a little bit. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the 2-inch squares to the lid. I'm also going to take our shelf and attach it to one of the 1.5 by 6.5. Okay, I'm going to take the shelf and attach it to one of the 1.5 by 6.5. And then I'm going to take the 1.5-inch squares and we're going to lay them on the corners. You can draw a diagonal if you want line, but it's small enough. I just go from corner to corner and stitch on all 4 corners. Now we're going to cut off the excess. You're just going to leave a 1/4-inch seam allowance. You can make your jar scrappy by using just a bunch of scraps and making your original square or rectangle to match the measurements. Before you start. Now I'm going to take these to the ironing board. We're going to press these open. You're going to press the shelf toward the brown, and then you're going to press toward your lid. Now we're going to set our shelf aside. We're going to take our lid and we're going to sew the other 1.5 by 6.5 to the top of that. Then we're going to sew the 1 inch by 8 on the sides of our jar piece. Now you're going to take these to the ironing board. You're going to press them open and press this to the white. Okay, so you're going to take your lid, you're going to fold it in half, give it a little crease. You're going to do the same thing with your jar. And you're going to line up those creases. That's just help making sure that the lid is center. And then it is going to overlap onto your background fabric just a smidgen, about 1/4 of an inch or so, on both sides. And by it overlapping when you sew your 1/4 inch is going to make sure that the lid is lined up with the edge of your background fabric and your design fabric. And then we're going to stitch on this shelf onto the bottom of the jar. If you're not doing the shelf, then you would just take your background fabric and attach to the bottom at this stage. Once you have it finished and stitched together, you will press toward the shelf, and then you would press the top to one of the sides. And you can see there on how the top lines up with the jar. So there is the big jar. I'm going to set it aside, and we're going to do the small jar. Now I'm just going to give you the measurements. I will have them in the description. And I'm just going to sew right through because it's the same process as we just did on the large. You just have a couple measurements that are different. Okay, for the small jar, you're going to need a 5.5 inch square. You're going to need your 2 inch by 3.5 inch for your lid. You're going to need your 1.5 by 6.5 shelf. You're going to need 4 1.5 inch squares. You're going to need 2 2-inch squares. For your sides, you're going to need 1 inch by 5.5. Then for the top, you're going to need a 4 inch by 6.5 inch. And then for the bottom, you're going to need the 1.5 by 6.5. So just like before, I'm going to start by sewing the shelf to the bottom, the 2 inch squares to your lid, and then your 1.5 inch squares to the corners. And there is the small jar. The only other thing that I did different was I made sure to press the shelf to the other sides That way, when we go to line it up with our other block, they're going to nestle together. So that's what we're going to start. I'm doing every other one. So this was the top block. So we're going to go with a small block or small jar. And because we did the browns or the shelf in different directions, they'll nestle together. So now all you do is add either your sashing if you're going to add sashing, or just go add your blocks right to each other and do however many across and down you want for a blanket, or if you're doing a table runner like I'm doing just a single row to go on the kids' toy shelf. But you can take this and make it a quilt. You can also make it a what is it, a 4x4 or 2x2, so you have 4 blocks, and make it so it will kind of go on as a wall hanging. So we're going to just sew the small jar onto there, and then we'll sew the other big jar that we did this morning or earlier onto the small. So here's my table runner. All I have to do is quilt it and bind it as desired. If you want to add a border, feel free to add a border. And like I said, this was a request from a subscriber. So if there's something that you would like to see me make, please comment below and let me know. I'll be glad to come up with something. And make sure you subscribe. We have a lot coming up for 2023. A lot of new techniques that you will not want to miss. Until then, happy quilting, my friends.